Everyone worries about the marauders. You've seen the movies, you bought the ammunition. You sit by the window with your rifle, waiting for the looters to come kicking down your door. But while you're staring out at the street, the real killer is bubbling up beneath your floorboards. It's not holding the shotgun. It's not demanding your canned peaches. It is microscopic, it is relentless, and it is going to turn your suburban fortress into a biological tomb. The most dangerous thing in your house right now isn't the stranger outside. It's the toilet in the bathroom hallway. Let's play out the scenario. The grid goes down. Maybe it's a cyber attack on the Eastern Interconnection, or maybe a solar flare fried the transformers from Ohio to Texas. The lights flicker and die. The refrigerator hum stops. You go into survival mode. You fill the bathtub with water. Good job, you read the manual. You check your pantry. You lock the doors. And then, about 4 hours in, nature calls. You go to the bathroom. You flush. The water swirls, the bowl empties, and you don't think twice about it. That was your first mistake. See, the modern American sanitation system is a miracle of engineering that relies on two things: gravity and pressure. Gravity is free, but pressure requires power. Lift stations, treatment plants, pumps that push the waste away from your home and towards a facility where it's treated with chemicals and aeration. When the grid fails, those pumps stop. For the first day, you might be fine. The pipes have some residual capacity. But imagine your neighborhood. 300 houses, 4 people per house. That's 1,200 people flushing, washing, and pouring waste into a system that has stopped moving. It's a clogged artery, and just like an artery, when the pressure builds up and there's nowhere for it to go, it backs up. Day 3, you wake up to a smell. It's faint at first, like sulfur and rotten eggs. You check the kitchen, nothing rotten yet. Then you hear it, a gurgling sound coming from the bathroom. You walk in and you see black, sludge-like liquid rising up from the drain of your bathtub. That isn't just dirty water. That is the collective waste of your entire street, forced backward by the physics of a dead grid looking for the path of least resistance. And guess what? Your basement toilet is the lowest point. This is where the nightmare starts. You are now living in a house filled with raw sewage. And raw sewage isn't just gross. It is a weaponized biological hazard. It carries cholera, dysentery, typhoid, hepatitis A. These aren't just words from a history book about the Oregon Trail. These are killers that destroyed civilizations before we invented PVC pipes. In a blackout, a minor cut on your finger that touches a contaminated surface turns into sepsis within 48 hours. Without antibiotics, which, let's be honest, you didn't stockpile enough of, you are dead. You didn't die in a blaze of glory defending your property. You died shivering in a fever sweat because you didn't know how to manage your own waste. So stop flushing right now. The moment the power goes out, put a strip of duct tape across the toilet lid. Do not let your kids use it. Do not let your spouse use it. That ceramic bowl is now decommissioned. But you still have a biological problem. The average human produces about a pound of waste a day. If you have a family of 4, that's nearly 30 pounds of hazardous material a week. You can't just throw it in the backyard. If you bury it too close to the house, you contaminate your garden. If you bury it too close to your water source, you poison yourself. If you leave it in a pile, you attract rats, and rats bring fleas, and fleas bring plague. We are sliding back to the Middle Ages, and we are doing it fast. You need a system, and you need it before the smell gives away your position, because that's the other thing nobody tells you. The smell of poor sanitation travels. If your house smells like a latrine, hungry people know there are humans inside. If there are humans, there are supplies. Hygiene is camouflage. Let's talk about the twin bucket system. This is the gold standard for urban survival when the plumbing is dead. You need 2 5-gallon buckets. You can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's, or steal them from behind a restaurant if you have to. One bucket is for liquids, urine, the other is for solids, feces. You must separate them. This is distinct survival chemistry. Urine is generally sterile when it leaves the body, although it turns into ammonia quickly as bacteria go to work on it. But feces, that is the biohazard. When you mix them together, you create a slurry that breeds pathogens at an exponential rate and creates a stench that will make your eyes water. By keeping them separate, you reduce the smell and the volume of the dangerous material significantly. For the liquid bucket, you just need a lid. You can dump urine in a designated spot in the yard away from food crops, or dilute it and use it as fertilizer for non-edible plants. It's high in nitrogen. It's manageable. The solid bucket is the dangerous one. You need heavy-duty contractor bags, not the cheap kitchen liners that tear when you look at them wrong. You line the bucket, then you need cover material. This is non-negotiable. Sawdust, peat moss, shredded newspaper, or even dry dirt from the backyard. After every use, you cover the waste completely with a layer of this dry material. This does 2 things. First, it creates a carbon cap that traps the smell. Second, it starts the desiccation process. It dries out the waste. Bacteria need moisture to thrive. By drying it out, you are slowing down the biological bomb in your living room. When the bucket is half full, do not wait until it's heavy. You don't want to risk a tear. You tie that bag off, double bag it, and store it in a sealed garbage can outside. Now, let's assume you live in an apartment in Chicago or New York. You don't have a backyard. You can't just dig a latrine. You're vertical. The plumbing stack in a high-rise is a disaster waiting to happen. If the people on the 10th floor keep flushing and the clog is on the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor apartment is going to become a sewage fountain. If you're in an apartment, your only option is containment. You tape off the drains. You plug the bathtub drain and weigh it down with something heavy, like a sandbag or a case of water, because the back pressure from a city sewer blockage can be strong enough to pop a rubber stopper. You are sealing your unit off from the building's veins. But what if you ran out of bags? What if you didn't prep? Now we have to get creative, and we have to get nasty. You need to build a trench latrine, but you need to do it strategically. If you're in the suburbs, do not dig it in the front yard. You don't want to advertise your presence. Go to the back. Dig a trench about 1 foot wide and 2 feet deep. Save the dirt you dug out. Pile it right next to the trench. Every time you use it, you shovel a layer of dirt back on top. But here is the science that will save your life. Location. You need to know the water table. If you dig a hole 3 feet deep and you hit water, stop. You are tapping into the groundwater. If you poop in that and your neighbor has a well, or you're drawing water from a nearby creek, you are creating a cycle of death. You need to be at least 200 feet away from any water source. In a dense suburb, that might be impossible. That's why the cat hole method works better for roving or temporary situations. But for a long-term grid-down scenario in a fixed location, you need to compost. Humanure. It sounds gross, but it's science. If you mix human waste with enough carbon material, straw, leaves, sawdust, and you let it sit, the thermophilic bacteria take over. They heat up the pile. A well-managed compost pile can reach 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat cooks the pathogens. It kills the cholera. It creates soil. But this takes time. It takes months. You don't have months. You have today. So let's talk about immediate hygiene. You have limited water. You have maybe 50 gallons stored if you were smart. You cannot use that water to flush. You cannot use that water to take long showers, but you have to stay clean. The hot spots wash. You focus on the armpits, the groin, the feet, and the face.
You can do this with 1 cup of water and a rag. Start with the face, end with the rear. Never go in reverse order. It sounds basic, but when you're tired, hungry, and stressed, you make mistakes. You rub your eyes after touching a dirty rag and boom, pink eye. In a collapse, pink eye isn't an annoyance, it's an infection that blinds you, making you useless for security or scavenging. Hand washing becomes the most critical ritual of your life. But you're running out of soap. Liquid soap is finite. Bar soap dissolves. You need to know how to make a sanitizing solution. Do you have bleach? Plain, unscented household bleach. It's a chemical weapon against bacteria, but it creates a paradox.
If you get bleach on your hand straight, it burns the skin, creates cracks, and opens you up to infection. You need to dilute it. A distinct chlorine smell is too strong. You want a capful in a gallon of water. It should have a faint scent. This is your hand dip. Before you eat, before you touch your face, you dip. But let's get darker. Let's say the system has truly collapsed. There is no garbage pickup. The bags of waste are piling up in the garage. The smell is leaking out. The neighbors are noticing. You see rats in the daylight. A bad sign. Rats usually hide during the day. If you see them at noon, it means their population has exploded so much they are fighting for territory. You need to deal with the waste permanently. You might have to burn it. Burning waste is dangerous. It requires fuel, which is precious. It creates smoke, which creates a signal. And the fumes from burning plastic bags and biological matter are toxic. You do not do this casually. You do this only when the risk of disease outweighs the risk of detection. You dig a pit. You need a hot fire. A slow smolder just cooks the waste and sends a plume of stench across the county. You need an incinerator. If you have a metal 55-gallon drum, punch holes near the bottom for airflow. This is your burn barrel. You build a wood fire at the bottom, get it raging hot, white ash hot, and then you introduce the waste in small amounts. You want it to vaporize, not smoke. You do this at night to hide the smoke column, or during a storm when the rain knocks the smoke down. But know this, the smell of burning hair and waste is unmistakable. It triggers a primal alarm in the human brain. Anyone downwind will know exactly what you are doing. Let's shift gears to the unseen enemy, water memory. Your pipes are not empty. Even if the water stops flowing, there is water sitting in the U-bends, the P-traps under your sinks. This water blocks sewer gas from coming up. Sewer gas contains hydrogen sulfide and methane. It's flammable, and in high concentrations, it can knock you out or kill you. If the water in your toilets and sinks evaporates, which happens faster than you think in a dry house, that seal is broken. The gas comes up. You'll get headaches, nausea, dizziness. You might think it's food poisoning or carbon monoxide. It's the sewer ghost haunting your house. You need to keep those traps full. Once a week, pour a cup of water or even used gray water, dishwater, down the drains to keep that seal intact. If you are abandoning a drain, pour a little vegetable oil down it. The oil floats on top of the water and prevents evaporation. It seals the trap for months. That is a plumber's trick that will save you from waking up gasping for air. Now look at your toilet paper stash. Be honest, you bought the mega pack from Costco, maybe 2. That's what, a month? 2 months? Then what? Americans are addicted to toilet paper. We use it, we toss it. In a survival situation, toilet paper is a luxury item that will disappear in the first week. Not because people use it all, but because they trade it. It becomes currency. But once it's gone, hygiene collapses. You need a dedicated family cloth system or a bidet bottle, a standard plastic water bottle with a hole poked in the cap. You squeeze it to create a jet of water. It uses a fraction of the water of a shower, and it gets you cleaner than dry paper. It reduces friction, reduces rash, reduces hemorrhoids, all things that can incapacitate you when you need to be hiking 10 miles to a trade meet. If you rely on paper, you are going to run out. And when you switch to newspaper or leaves or, God forbid, the pages of a glossy magazine, you are going to cause microabrasions. In a world without doctors, a rectal abscess is a life-ending event. It's painful, it gets infected easily due to the location, and it causes sepsis. People in the Civil War died from this. You will too. The bidet bottle is superior. It's infinitely reusable. It forces you to wash your hands afterwards, enforcing the hygiene cycle. Let's talk about the psychology of filth. We are conditioned to be clean. When we are dirty, when we smell, our morale tanks. We feel subhuman. In a survival group, the dirty person is ostracized. It's instinctual. We avoid the sick to survive. If you let your hygiene standards slip, you aren't just risking disease, you are risking the cohesion of your group. Arguments start, tension rises. If your spouse smells like a latrine, intimacy dies, trust erodes. You stop seeing each other as people and start seeing each other as sources of contagion. You have to enforce a military-grade hygiene schedule. It gives you a routine. In a chaotic world, routine is sanity. 0800, empty the buckets. 0815, sanitize the handles. 0830, wash hands. It gives you control over your environment when everything else is out of control. But there is a specific threat that comes from your neighbors that you can't control. The downstream effect. You might be doing everything right. Twin buckets, hand washing, sealed drains. But Dave next door? Dave is digging a shallow hole 10 feet from your property line. Or worse, Dave is throwing his waste into the storm drain at the end of the street. Storm drains often feed directly into local creeks or retention ponds. That creek might be where you plan to get your drinking water. You can boil water to kill bacteria, yes, but you cannot boil away chemicals. If people start dumping bleach, harsh cleaners, or industrial waste into the water supply because the toilets don't work, the water becomes toxic chemically. You have to watch your neighbor's hygiene as closely as you watch their perimeter security. If you see a neighbor dumping buckets near a water source, that is an act of aggression. It is no different than them shooting at your house. You have to intervene. Diplomacy first. Hey, dig a deeper hole. Here's how. But if they refuse, if they poison the well, that is a conflict scenario. This is why the lone wolf mentality fails. You can be sterile in your bunker, but if the world outside is a festering petri dish, the plague will find a way in. A fly lands on your neighbor's waste, then flies through the crack in your window screen and lands on your dinner. Boom. You have cholera. The flies are the enemy air force. You need screens. Check them now. A single tear in a screen is a breach in your perimeter. If you don't have screens, you need mosquito netting. If you don't have that, you need to keep air movement, fans if you have solar power, or keep the house dark and cooled to discourage them. Let's recap the immediate action plan. 1. Stop flushing immediately. Tape the toilet shut. 2. Establish the twin bucket system. Urine in one, feces in the other. Cover the feces with carbon material every single time. 3. Seal your drains to prevent sewer gas backup and backflow.
4. Stockpile heavy-duty bags, bleach, and soap. Soap is worth more than bullets in month 2. 5. Secure your water source from your neighbor's stupidity. There is a historical precedent for this. Look at the siege of Sarajevo or the blackouts in Venezuela. The people who survived weren't just the ones with the guns. They were the ones who didn't die of dysentery in the first 3 weeks. They were the ones who kept clean enough to keep their morale up and their wounds free of infection. We live in a fragile bubble of sterility. We think we have defeated nature. We haven't. We've just built a porcelain wall between us and the bacteria. When the power goes out, that wall comes down. The gun on your hip makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel in control. But the bacteria on your hands, it doesn't care how much 5.56 ammo you have. It doesn't care if you're a black belt. It just wants to eat. Don't let your bathroom be the reason you don't wake up. The silence of a blackout is terrifying, but the smell is the warning. If you can smell it, you're already inhaling particles of the end.
You survived the first month. You didn't drink the contaminated water. You kept your twin buckets separated. You managed to keep your hands clean with that dwindling bottle of bleach. But now, the supplies are gone. The heavy-duty contractor bags ran out a week ago. The bleach bottle is empty. The bar soap is a sliver the size of a guitar pick. The crisis isn't temporary anymore. It's the new reality. And in this reality, you can't rely on stockpiles. You have to manufacture your survival. We are going to talk about 2 things that separate the survivors from the casualties in the long game: manufacturing hygiene and permanent waste infrastructure. Let's start with the latrine. The bucket system is a stopgap. It relies on plastic bags, and plastic bags are finite. When you run out, you can't just dump raw waste into a bucket and scrub it out. That uses too much water and creates a splash hazard. You need to build something permanent. You need a composting outhouse. This isn't a hole in the ground. A pit latrine, the hole, smells, attracts flies, and eventually fills up. A composting latrine is a biological reactor. You need to build it elevated. Why? Because you need to be able to access the chamber underneath to empty it when it turns into soil. Build a simple wooden box structure. It doesn't have to be pretty, it has to be sturdy. The seat needs a tight-fitting lid, airtight if possible, to keep flies out. Under the seat, you need a catch container. A 55-gallon drum cut in half works perfectly. Here is the critical engineering detail: urine diversion. You must keep the liquid out of the main chamber. If the pile gets soggy, it goes anaerobic. That's the rotten egg smell. That's the dangerous bacteria. You want the pile moist, like a wrung-out sponge, not wet. You can build a urine diverter with a simple funnel and a tube that runs to a separate soak-away pit or jug. The solids drop into the main chamber. Every time you use it, you add your cover material: sawdust, dry leaves, chopped straw. If you run out of sawdust, use dry, pulverized dirt. When the chamber is full, you don't use it. You slide it out, cover it, and let it bake. You swap in a new container. After a year of sitting, that dangerous biological waste has been cooked by microbes. It looks like dark, rich earth. It smells like a forest floor. You can use it to fertilize your fruit trees. You have turned a deadly liability into a life-sustaining asset. This is the closed loop. This is how humanity survived for thousands of years before the flush toilet. But hygiene requires soap, You can't wash the bacteria off your hands with just water. Water just moves them around. You need a surfactant to break the lipid layer of the virus or bacteria. You can make soap. It's dangerous, it's messy, but it's powerful. You need two things, fat and lye. Fat is easy if you're hunting or trapping. Rendered animal fat, tallow from beef or deer, lard from pigs. You boil the fat in water, let it cool, and skim the clean white wax off the top. That's your base. If you don't have animal fat, you can use vegetable oil, but that's usually too precious for food. Lye is the hard part. You can't buy drain cleaner anymore. You have to make it from wood ash. This is why you save every scrap of ash from your fire. Hardwood ash is best. Oak, hickory, maple. Softwood ash is too resinous. You pack a plastic bucket or a wooden barrel with the white, cold ash. You poke small holes in the bottom and put a layer of straw or gravel over them as a filter. You suspend this bucket over a catch container. Then you pour rainwater. It must be soft water, not mineral-heavy well water, slowly over the ashes. The water trickles through, leaching potassium hydroxide, potash, from the wood. The brown liquid that drips out the bottom is lye water. Warning, this liquid is caustic. It will burn your skin. It will blind you. If you get it on you, flush it with vinegar and acid to neutralize it. Test the strength by floating an egg or a small potato in it. If the egg sinks, run the water through the ashes again. If it floats so that a quarter-sized spot is above the surface, it's ready. Now, the chemistry. You heat your fat. You heat your lye water. You mix them. You stir and you stir and you stir. It's called saponification. The mixture will thicken into a pudding-like trace. You pour it into molds. A cardboard box lined with wax paper works. Let it sit for a day to harden, then cut it into bars. But you can't use it yet. Green soap still has active lye. It will burn your skin. You have to let it cure for 4 weeks. It needs to sit in a dry place while the chemical reaction finishes. 4 weeks later, you have a bar of harsh, scrubbing, yellowish soap. It won't smell like lavender. It will smell like wet dog and smoke. But it will kill germs. It will clean your clothes. It will keep the lice off your body. In a post-collapse world, a crate of homemade soap bars makes you the richest person in the sector. You can trade a bar of soap for antibiotics, for ammo, for labor. Let's talk about the rats. We mentioned them earlier, but in the long game, they are the apex predator of your food supply and your health. As waste management in the city collapses, the rat population will explode. They reproduce every 3 weeks. A pair of rats can produce thousands of descendants in a year. They will overrun the sewers, then the streets, then your house. They carry leptospirosis. You get this by touching surfaces they have urinated on. If a rat runs across your canned goods in the pantry and pees on the lid, and you open that can without washing it, you ingest the bacteria. You get kidney failure. You die. Passive defense is key. You need to seal your house. Steel wool mixed with expanding foam, if you have any left, is the only thing they can't chew through. They can chew through concrete if it's uncured. They can chew through wood. They can squeeze through a hole the size of a quarter. You need rat discipline. No food left out, ever. Dishes washed immediately. Crumbs swept up. If you have trash, it must be in a metal can with a locking lid, suspended off the ground if possible. If you kill a rat, do not touch it. Use a shovel. Burn the body. Do not bury it,
because other rats will dig it up and eat it. They are cannibals. If you have traps, secure them so the rat doesn't drag the trap into the wall and die there, creating a smell that will make your house unlivable. Finally, let's talk about the mental aspect of living in filth. There is a phenomenon called sensory adaptation or nose blindness. After 2 weeks, you won't smell the sewage anymore. You won't smell the unwashed bodies of your family. This is a survival mechanism to keep you from going insane, but it is dangerous. Because you can't smell it, you stop respecting the danger. You stop washing your hands as thoroughly because it doesn't seem that bad. You stop boiling the water as long. You get complacent. You have to intellectually override your senses. You have to look at a surface that looks clean and tell yourself that is covered in poison. You have to maintain the paranoia. Paranoia is the immune system of the mind. The people who survive the long blackout aren't the ones with the biggest muscles. They are the ones with the strictest routines. They are the ones who treat hygiene like a religion. When history looks back at the collapse, the survivors will be the ones who understood that the gun was for the wolves, but the soap was for the invisible monsters. Keep your buckets separate. Keep your hands clean. And for God's sake, keep the lid down.